McGallagher to Stokes, who's onside. 1-0.
Here's Sims. It's a good serve this from Southampton. They could finish the job here. It's Shane Long, and he has done it. Just a minute to play. That's stoppage time. Here's Letizia. Who better to say farewell than one of the finest players ever to wear the red and white.
Hello and welcome. It is episode 81 of the Saints FC podcast, and welcoming him back from his paternity leave from podcasting duties, we have Tom Parker on the line. Tom, how are you?
It's an experience, John. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. How much sleep have you had in the last 2 weeks, Tom?
We're getting bits and spurts. You know, I've been off work, which is good. But it's more the, and you know this, John, because you have a little one. It's the intermittentness of the sleep, isn't it? It's this unusual thing which you never had before, where you get maybe 2 hours and then you're awake for an hour. That's where it's really hard. But we're doing really well. Mum and baby are well, so that's all that really matters.
Yeah. And how is little Beatrice, Matt Letizia, Franny Benali, James Ward-Prowse is a legend, Parker doing?
She's doing good. She's got a hell of a set of lungs on her. But no, she's really well. She's very beautiful, taking after her mother. So really, really good. All positive. And you know, if we just start the evening screaming, we'll be a happy family.
Well, welcome to the world, Beatrice, and welcome back, Tom. It's great to hear you down the line. Thanks to Carl Anker, who stepped in covering your paternity leave, Tom. So anyway, we've got 2 games to talk about. We'll go through the first one quite quickly, I think, then we'll get on to the Palace one, because that was a lot of fun. But there's a hell of a lot of optimism around Saints. And there was a hell of a lot of optimism going into the game against Wolves at home at St Mary's. I think everyone was expecting a Saints win, and looking back on it, you probably think, well, maybe we should have come away with more points than 0.
Yeah, it was funny, wasn't it? It was kind of the best and worst of Saints, wasn't it? It was almost too easy in the first half, and then we just melted. I mean, I don't know. There's lots, you know, after the game, there's lots of, as always, just sort of catastrophizing on Twitter. But you know, Wolves are a really good team, aren't they? And in Raul Jimenez, they have probably up there with Aguero in terms of one of the best out-and-out goal scorers in the Premier League.
Yeah, I can think of another decent goal scorer in the Premier League as well.
That is true. That's true. Shane Long.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Shane Long got his goal against Wolves, but before we mention Shane Long's goal, rare goal from Jan Bednarek.
Yeah, and what a goal as well. What a lovely cushioned back across the goalkeeper finish. Quite similar to his first goal, wasn't it? His goal against Chelsea, he scored at St Mary's. But yeah, a lovely, fantastic cross from Ward-Prowse, and I think that was one of, you know, everyone's been wondering why our centre backs haven't been getting more goals. I think Jack Stevens only got 1 in the league this year, and fair play to Bednarek. It was a hell of a finish from not an easy height and not an easy angle, really.
Yeah, it's really nicely kind of curled in and kind of over the keeper. Keeper was, you know, rooted to the floor, which you absolutely love to see. But yeah, I mean, it was a finish befitting of a striker, I thought, really, or maybe not, because he didn't hit it like a striker, but he just kind of did that. I don't know. It was a gentle dink. It was very composed.
Yeah, it was almost like a De Bruyne style, sort of just, yeah, back across the keeper. I thought it was excellent. I have to say, I thought it was really, really. It's the kind of goal, you know, that Ward-Prowse's crosses sort of cry out for.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we had Shane Long's goal, which is another rarity.
Rare as hen's teeth.
Yeah, but you know, I think Carl Anker has done an article on how Shane Long is good at winning headers, and he's got a massive jump. But for this headed goal, he had to get down quite low. I think he headed it from just above waist height. But a really nice finish.
And a great cross from Cedric. crossing with his right foot, which he seems to be obsessed with, coming back in and putting it on his left, which is bonkers considering he's a right-footed player. But a really nice sort of reminiscent of a couple of years ago, Shane Long goal. And Shane Long's got so much to his game, hasn't he? We love Shane Long, and if he can start scoring goals as well, and happy days for Saints.
Yeah, there might be some evidence that it's not going to be the start of a run, but we'll get to that in due course. And then at half-time, I think everyone at Southampton is thinking, this run is continuing. We're continuing to winning games. We're 2-0 up at half-time. We're on absolute cloud 9. And I said this on Freddie's show on The Ugly Inside last week or earlier this week. Can't remember now. No, yeah, it must have been earlier this week. On Monday, that it almost feels a little bit like Saints can sometimes get carried away with themselves, almost believe their own hype. And then at half-time, it seemed like they just totally switched off and a totally different Wolves came out at them.
Yeah, well, Wolves changed formation, didn't they? Traore went sort of as part of a front three playing through the middle, and Saints kind of melted a little bit. And I think we do have a problem. We had it at home to West Ham. We have a problem with big, muscular centre forwards, and we struggle, and it was ever thus, and they played very direct to Jimenez, and we couldn't, like everyone else in the Premier League, we couldn't handle Traore, and it was kind of old Saints, wasn't it? It was incredibly disappointing to see. We kind of thought we were past that.
Yeah, I suppose those skeletons in the closet are going to be hard to get rid of. I mean, it kind of looked a bit like we might kind of continue in the same vein as we did in the first half when Shane Long had that chance, I think, with a header which just kind of grazed the outside of the post. But pretty quickly, Wolves were back into it. And Neto's goal, the first one, I thought the Saints' defence were doing their impression of the old Saints' defence. They seemed quite statuesque. I think it was Bednarek was pulled really far out of position, and when the cross came in, all the Saints players were standing still, and it was quite simple for Neto. After, I think, did it hit him, and then he somehow recovered, still had more time, still didn't face a challenge, and then put it into the net.
Yeah, he had a lot of time, didn't he? You're right, it was kind of a bit start of the season, Saints defending. And I think he had almost so much time that you almost thought it was going to be called back. Obviously, it wasn't, and I think that was sort of, you could see sort of Saints' heads go a little bit, very, like I say, reminiscent of the old days, really.
Yeah, the fear struck in. And then we have the penalty shout for Jimenez, which somehow Hassan Hüttl didn't think it was a penalty. I've watched this a few times over, and I've got to say, every time it's a penalty for me.
Yeah, weird one, because it was definitely a pen, and Ralph was insistent that it wasn't, but I just have no idea why wouldn't it be? Cedric didn't touch the ball. Stevens definitely didn't touch the ball, and it was a stone bomb. And it's weird for Ralph, isn't it? Because Ralph's normally a pretty straight shooter. You normally think. Very unusual for him just to be so open and say no, it wasn't, when it definitely was.
I think he felt that because Cedric kind of got there first, Cedric was the right side of the ball, that that meant that it wasn't a penalty. But you can't really account for Jack Stevens flying in, and Cedric didn't actually get the ball and get it away and deal with it all on his own. So I think the argument's fairly flawed. Jimenez puts the penalty away. It's 2-2. You're fearing the worst, but then Redmond goes up the other end, has a shot from the edge of the area, and it hits the top of the bar, but doesn't go in. And was that the point that we knew it definitely wasn't going to happen for us, and that there was a winner for Wolves just around the corner?
Well, even with Saints Renaissance, you always think there's always a chance. Even, we'll talk about the Palace game, but you always worry that, once we've conceded, we're not as strong. We're sort of assumed to be obviously stronger if we don't concede, or stronger if we concede first. But it just wasn't really our day, was it? I think there's just a few silly, rash. You could say the first goal was defended poorly. You could argue it's poor defending for the penalty, and then for the third goal, we just we all followed Traore, didn't we? And no one sort of realised where Jimenez was.
Yeah, I mean, I think by that point they'd figured out that Traore was the problem, but then hadn't figured out that some of the other Wolves players are quite handy as well. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to us that Jimenez is, a top scorer. I've put down the question of what went wrong. Why was there such a big difference between the two halves? I think Adama Traore is basically that's the short answer, isn't it? He was so effective down the middle, and we just couldn't deal with him, like we couldn't deal with Antonio against West Ham.
Yeah, completely agree. Antonio, we made Antonio look like a world beater. I think Traore is a much, much better footballer. But again, it's that pace, power, direct running, and sort of running at our centre backs is we struggle with. But I mean, look, Man City struggled with Traore, a week or two before that. Plenty, better teams than Saints are going to struggle with him. So, all in all, disappointing, but not probably unwarranted win for Wolves, I'd say.
Yeah. Looking at the XG, actually, Saints had an XG of 0.8 and Wolves 2.3. So they deserved to win in terms of they created the better chances in the game. I suppose kind of for the Bednarek chance and stuff like that probably don't get a high XG because they're so unusual. But and I mean, the main thing for me really was that it really scared me because it kind of brought back that old problem. So since the start of last season, Southampton have dropped 42 points from leading positions in the Premier League. That's 13 more points dropped than any other side over that same period of time. And there was a bit of a worry for me that we might carry that nervousness into the next game, the game against Palace. And it seemed really, really important that, we kind of put that to bed and put in a really good performance against Palace. We're going to get onto that in just a second. We're going to have a little message from our sponsors now. I say sponsors, there's no money being exchanged, but we're just going to give a little shout out for Saints 1885, who've made a jingle for our podcast, Tom. So what do you think about this? Have a little listen.
For Saints fans everywhere, this is the ultimate football app for you. For match highlights, interviews, and the best Southampton videos and podcasts. Download the free Saints 1885 app now from the App Store and Google Play.
There we go. I mean, I would have quite liked some jingle music behind it, but that's nice production, isn't it?
It's functional, but it gets the message across.
Yeah. So for those Saints fans wondering, saints1885.com on the Saints app is a news site for everything Southampton. So you can get on there. You'll find stories about all the sorts of things with Southampton. And the deal is they're also going to be posting our podcast up on their app and on their website as well. So let us know if you go there and you haven't spotted our podcast, because it means they haven't held up their side of the bargain. All right. You know what the address is, listeners. Yeah, saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com. But great to have some more Saints content out there. And it's days like today where I was in work just staring at the Premier League table whilst I was eating my sandwiches at my desk. When you just want as much Saints content as you can possibly get. And the reason being, Tom, is what an absolute brilliant performance we had against Palace. The starting lineup, I've got to say, did make me a little bit nervous. We had Bednarek out for the first time ever for a Ralph Hasenhüttl game, so I think he's played 42 games in a row, and he was out.
He started every single game for Ralph, is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe excluding the cups. But clearly Ralph's favourite when it comes to the centre of defence. And with Vestergaard in there was a bit of a, there's a Saints FC Twitter meltdown, obviously, with Vestergaard being in the lineup. And I've got to admit, I was a little bit worried myself as well. And then I suppose the other interesting thing on the lineup was the fact that Obafemi was in instead of Shane Long, which Ralph, I think he did do over Christmas period, didn't he? He dropped Ings for the match against Chelsea and played Obafemi. Clearly this is something to protect Danny Ings from playing too much in too short a period of time.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I think a lot of people were quite worried about it, but what's fascinating is obviously Ralph has complete faith, doesn't he, in the other players. I mean, Obafemi has got a wonderful goal against Chelsea, or got one against Fulham as well in the League Cup from memory from earlier this season, and then won the previous season. So he's not a prodigious goal scorer, and neither would you say is Shane Long. But obviously Ralph has just complete faith in these players, and there was a bit of a meltdown. I think Vestergaard was the main cause of the meltdown, which I can appreciate and understand. But yeah, in Ralph we trust.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Obafemi does give you is a hell of a lot of running. It's a bit like kind of Shane Long. He works really, really hard. He's really willing to do the press, and he seems to totally get the press. He's in the right position. He's chasing down the goalkeeper, then switches to the right back, etc. So he knows what he's doing with that. Vestergaard had a little bit of a nervous start, didn't he? There was an early mistake which led to Cenk Tosun being right in front of the goal. And I thought at that point that was going to be 1-0 Palace. The guy scored a goal against Man City, so you didn't expect him to fluff his lines, but my God, he did.
Yeah, and it was so weird. It was so casual, wasn't it, from Vestergaard? It was so not really what Saints have been doing over the last, with Stevens, and who's so assured on the ball, and Bednarek, who doesn't mess around. And then, they got this unknown quantity that comes in, sort of, Vestergaard, who's not match sharp, not playing international games, not playing for Saints. Just so casual on the ball. And Palace are a really good team. And one area they are really good, and I think they were better than Saints in the first game of the season, was their centre midfield. And with AU up front, they've got real quality. And I don't know, but Vestergaard he got away with it, didn't he?
He did get away with it, and thank God. And then things kind of went from, a little bit scary to worse as Cedric went down injured. He clearly couldn't carry on. He did try for a few moments, which meant that, and obviously we know full well that Jan Valerie's been out for a long time with this virus. We don't have any other backup at right back. I don't think Kevin Danso was even on the bench, so Romeo goes on, which means that James Ward-Prowse moves into the right back and Romeo goes into the centre of midfield. I was quite worried because James Ward-Prowse has been absolutely immense in the centre of midfield recently, and I wondered if that was going to hamper us. He's also not the world's greatest right back, but...
Yeah, and playing against a hell of a winger.
Yeah.
Isn't he there? I mean, hell of a player.
Yeah, Wilfried Zaha, I don't think we see the best of him as Saints fans, I've got to say. But interestingly, James Ward-Prowse absolutely relished the opportunity to go up face-to-face, head-to-head with Wilf Zaha. And my God, he worked so hard throughout the whole game. And just him and Stewart Armstrong dealt with the threat down that Palace wing, dealt with Zaha brilliantly. I was quite surprised that they didn't kind of switch Zaha over to the other side, because on the other side you had Redmond and Ryan Bertrand were linking up beautifully well down the left wing and causing Palace a lot of problems. And we were just totally in their face for pretty much the rest of the first half. And we had that wonderful goal from Nathan Redmond. Now, Tom, I'm going to try something a bit flash here. I'm going to try and play the commentary from the Nathan Redmond goal on the podcast. So let's see if this is going to work.
Zaha 12 yards out. That's a good ball into Redmond. Back to goal, holds off the defender Kelly, then turns away from one, into the box, fires a brilliant goal. Nathan Redmond puts Saints into the lead. He hit the bar with one like that at the weekend. This time it's unerring into the top corner. Top bins from Redmond, and Nathan Redmond's third Premier League goal of the season gives Saints a deserved lead against Crystal Palace here in the Premier League. He's got Bertrand on the overlap. Bertrand with the early ball in.
Hang on.
Armstrong
now I need to pause it. There we go. It worked, Tom.
It's science, John. You're a DJ wizard.
So there we go. We have the Nathan Redmond goal, which again it came from a really wonderful Jack Stevens ball, like over the top.
Yeah,
which was just great to see. And he's really, it's so good that I'm clasping hold of some wood here whilst I say this, but he's managed to get some of the serious errors and nerves out of his game, which means we can then focus on the bits that he does really well, which as a ball-playing centre-back, his distribution, I think, is one of the best.
Yeah, definitely. And he did that lovely sort of run out of defence, didn't he, again, where he sort of opens up his body,
Yeah.
sort of glides. And, he's got more assists than Ozil this season. He's got more assists than Zaha this season. Fascinating sort of study, isn't it, to look at? And like this guy that's just sort of, obviously Ralph has given him instructions to do this. It knows obviously that this is a real talent he's got. And the pass was fantastic into the feet of Redmond. And I think he obviously, there's one thing, we hear a lot about Saints wanting to pump the ball up and to try and make the opposition defenders make mistakes and then for us to win the ball back in the final third. But what an option we've got there of a player that is a bit of a luxury. He's happy to stroll out defence, maybe, gain 10, 15 yards and then launch an accurate pass. And we think, well, what's he done? So we've got goals against Spurs, goals against Newcastle, and now goals against Palace.
Yeah, just absolutely wonderful. And Redmond as well, I think we've got to have a massive nod to him. So he picks it up on the edge of the area. He's got 2 Palace players on him, and he has tremendous strength. They're desperately trying to foul him and stop him getting the shot away. He manages to hold them off, opens up his body, gets his head over the ball, and there's absolutely nothing. Is it Gita or Gaiata in the Palace goal? Not a single chance.
Yeah, Gaita. No. But it's the sort of thing Redmond does all the time, isn't it? That kind of finding space, shot, he hit the bar against Wolves, like we said. And, not too often they don't come off. It's probably safe to say. I think the last one, obviously, you had the goal against Pompey earlier this season. They had a goal against Huddersfield, which was kind of quite similar. The last day of last season, but for a player of real talent, he probably doesn't hit, as Adam Blackmore said, their top ends enough. But God, he lashed this one home.
Oh, it's just wonderful to watch, and I hope you all enjoyed the commentary on that. I was feeling a bit nervous about slipping that into the podcast, so hopefully you enjoyed that. Generally, first half performance from Saints I thought was absolutely fantastic. So much pressure on the ball. We created so many chances. I'm not going to go through them, but I was, a little bit worried when the halftime whistle went that, are we going to rue the missed chances? Are we going to see another Jekyll and Hyde performance from Saints where we have a great first half but then don't show up in the second half? I needn't have been worried, but actually in the halftime break, we had another bit of action with James Ward-Prowse and Zaha continuing their feud, which has been going on for a fair old while now. We had Zaha sent off and James Ward-Prowse kind of laughing in his face. I suppose this time last year, was it? And then Zaha goes and pokes James Ward-Prowse in the eye.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? It's such a weird rivalry. Palace sort of have these weird rivalries, don't they? Because obviously Palace's big rival is not a London team, it's Brighton.
Yeah.
Do you know this, John?
Yeah.
It's some weird dispute between Terry Venables and like Malcolm Allison in like 1972, and they've never forgotten it. And now obviously James Ward-Prowse is in their side. But it's funny, isn't it? Zaha is now the most fouled player in the history of the Premier League. I think he's got over 500 fouls against him. And what's amazing is he's still, 28, 29, unable to resist the niggle back. Like if you remember like Hazard, get fouled, the player I think had been fouled even more than Zaha, and he never gave it back. Whereas Zaha seems to be so easy to wind up.
Yeah, and James Ward-Prowse is, I think, on his CV in the hobbies section, if people still put hobbies on their CVs, I think winding up Wilf Zaha is, pretty much front and centre. He loves it. He loves the challenge, and he knows how to get under Zaha's skin, which clearly he did. Amazingly, VAR looked at this and there was no further action. I'm quite surprised by that. I suppose VAR, does it not step in for yellow cards? Because
it's violent conduct, isn't it? But I guess there wasn't much in it, was there? I mean, I'm surprised it wasn't a booking.
Yeah.
You think of it a booking when you're like hands raised to the face. You think it's a booking. I'm surprised by that. But yeah, it's just interesting. And also, on that note of Zaha, again, Saints tactical fouls. I think Saints are do they commit the most fouls of any team in the Premier League?
Is that true?
I think that's true. But what was brilliant is I think 3 Saints players got booked for tackles on Zaha.
Yeah.
So this is the thing of, let's not get anyone sent off, but let's stop him every time he goes to do something and just happily take a booking for each time. I think Romeo got the first booking like 70 odd minutes in when Saints were already 2-0 up. So you got to give it to Saints, like game management. Like we've often criticised in the past. They were just so clever, weren't they, John?
Yeah, it's something that we've not really seemed to have done that well in the past. Yet now we seem to be able to kind of like have that sort of that dirtiness, that little bit more savvy play, and becoming a club that teams don't like to play against. I think the embodiment of that is James Ward-Prowse. Let's have a look. Fouls chart. I've got the fouls chart up now, Tom. Here we go. Who is the most fouling club in the Premier League? It is Southampton. You're right, Tom.
Yeah, see, but what's clever is, who have we had sent off this year? I can't think of anyone, have we?
Ryan Bertrand.
Well, we had Bertrand, yeah, for a straight red. But yeah, that's very. I mean, like, there's a lot of positives to say at the moment. Lots of how clever, obviously, Ralph's got them going. These fouls is one thing, lack of injuries is another. But this is just enabling us to sort of stop teams and stop players like Zaha. It's very, very shrewd.
Yeah. So getting into the second half, the first thing of note, I think, is Stewart Armstrong's goal. Tom, I've got two audio options here. We can either go for the Adam Blackmore commentary, or we can go just for the sound of the ball striking the net.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. One of the great things as well, if you do get a chance to say, is the sound of Redmond's shot hitting the stanchion.
Was that his shot? The one against Palace?
Yeah, it's Palace. If you listen again, you can hear the thunk as it hits the space. It's a classic. Classic sound.
Yeah. Okay, listeners, go back and have a listen to that. Hopefully this is going to work. We're going to see if we can hear Stewart Armstrong's goal hitting the back of the net. So here we go, Stewie. Was that a nice sound, Tom?
It's got that lovely swooshing.
Do you want to hear it again, just in case?
Yeah, go on. Let's go on.
Lovely.
Nice. Yeah.
It's
a lot to admire about that goal.
There is.
The assist was lovely as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was just nice. It's like, a good forward play. Stewart Armstrong picks up in a good position, moves towards the goal. He's got one thing on his mind, and he kind of opens up to make it look as though he's going to go for the far post, which is kind of what you do with a right-footed curling shot. You kind of bend it around the keeper and into the far side, which I think maybe had the keeper wrong-footed, and then it beautifully curled away from him. And that lovely little sound as it goes into the onion bag, as it were. He's brought so much to the team, Stewart Armstrong. Since he's been starting in the side, I think it's totally changed the dynamic of the team.
Yeah, I completely agree. And don't want to go over things as very much before, but he just gives the team so much more balance, doesn't he, rather than trying to play a winger as part of a midfield three. He gives us so much more. He just does everything right, doesn't he? He's just not flashy. Very, uses the ball well. I imagine Ralph loves him because of he's quite an efficient footballer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that? I mean in the nicest possible way. Very much. It's a bit like Stephen Davis. Yeah,
a bit like Stephen Davis. More glamorous Paul Telfer.
God, it's a blast from the past.
It is funny because I think at the start of the season we were talking about Moussa Djenepo and how important it was going to be for him to be playing all the time, to have him and Redmond as the two wingers, and that giving us this sense of flair, the player that can unlock sides. We had some really good performances from Boufal early in the season. And Stewart Armstrong seemed to be in this position of just always coming on in like the 70th minute, having a fairly passive game. But it's funny, what you think you need and what you actually need are two different things sometimes. And I think we all thought we needed Djenepo to be that player. But actually, it turns out what we needed was Stewart Armstrong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we've seen the best of Djenepo because I don't think we've really seen him have a long enough spell as part of a front three. I think, we've seen a lot playing the role that we're now seeing an actual midfielder play, which is kind of on the right side of that midfield three. which obviously involves a lot more industry, a lot more tracking back, and a lot more unglamorous work. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? The player that sort of took everyone's breath away has been sort of usurped by the bloke that we signed, that everyone was excited about, but seemed a bit sort of workmanlike. But he just sort of seems to bring out the best in Saints, and he also provides a lot more cover for arguably our weakest link in the team, which is Cedric.
Yeah, I do.
So all in all, he's just and he's got a hell of a shot on him. Like, he doesn't score bad goals, does he?
No. Well, I mean, it's funny you should mention that, Tom, because there's this song that the Celtic fans used to sing about him, how his hair is fine and he scores belters all the time. And this is going to be my last bit of audio trickery. So I'm going to play this song. See if you can understand it, because it is obviously in the Scottish accent of the Celtic fans. But if we can come up with a variation on this, I think sometimes if a player comes with a good song, you've got to adopt it. Have a listen to this, listeners, and see what you think. Should we get this one going for Stewart Armstrong?
This is.
Oh, hang on. What have I got now? I've got a Facebook advert. I need to iron out a few things here, Tom. But what do you think of that chant? Is that a goer?
It's quite long, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's quite an epic.
I think it's one of those ones that the away fans might have to work on a bit together in the pub, get it going at a few away games
together
before it's going to work in the in St Mary's with the kind of broader church of Southampton fans.
Yeah, but he is he's I think he's kind of the missing piece, isn't he? There's lots of missing pieces that Ralph has found. I think he's sort of the missing, the sort of final piece in the puzzle, it seems to be, for Saints. And it was quite interesting. Ralph was saying about how been encouraging him and Redmond to shoot more from distance, and they played as it was very difficult because they were pushed up, didn't they? It's almost number 10s behind the forwards, and exploited that space. I mean, I guess we were lucky playing a Palace team who are ravaged by injuries, who are knackered, and but he still has to look up, and he sort of disguised a swerve on it, didn't he? Almost sending the keeper the wrong way.
Yeah,
it's a bloody great goal job.
Yeah, it's funny what you mentioned about Palace there. They almost had the exact same situation where they had a really good performance at the Etihad, worked really hard, and then they've come to a home game which is eminently more winnable, and they've flopped a bit because they weren't really at it, Palace. And it's a bit like, after the Man City game, we had that awful game at home against Everton, and really that should have been the one which we threw our energy into. But I don't mind. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was a great win, very exciting win.
Yeah,
and we push on.
It could have been more though. Shane Long had, I think, probably his miss of the season when Obafemi put him in front and centre in front of the goalkeeper. This was a worse miss than Tosson's miss in the start. Oh yeah, way worse. Yeah. I mean, all he had to do was put it either side of the keeper or smash it in, anything but what he did. It took me about 5 or 10 minutes to get over that. I don't think I was really over it until I knew we were going to win the game. I think probably after Connor Wickham missed a couple of chances. But despite Shane Long's miss and Obafemi not getting on the score sheet, those two bring so much to the team in that attacking third, and cause so many problems which allow the likes of Redmond and Stewart Armstrong to kind of find the space and have the shots themselves.
Yeah, it's kind of I think we've got a lot of players that are obviously adept at putting players out of position. Obafemi seems to be very good at that. Shane Long is obviously very good at that. And it just creates these pockets of space. And if we can get a confident Redmond, a confident Armstrong, then that could be worth another sort of 6-7 goals for Saints by the end of the season.
Yeah,
which would be huge.
Before we move on from this game, Tom, I think we've also got to give a nod to James Ward-Prowse for his absolute shithousery. I loved the moment when the Saints fans were chanting he's got Zaha in his pocket, and he actually did have a little look in his pocket of his shorts.
Yeah. He's just come on, isn't he? So far. We love James Ward-Prowse.
I mean, Tom, the question, what is a James Ward-Prowse now?
He's answered emphatically.
Yeah, it's so good. What Ralph Hasenhüttl has done to James Ward-Prowse, I just absolutely love.
Yeah.
Great article from Carl Anker, your paternity cover on The Athletic today about James Ward-Prowse. Get over there, have a read of it, use up your free trial if you haven't already. And it's a really hard game to pick a player of the match from. I mean, who was your man of the match?
I'd say Redmond was everywhere, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Redmond was unplayable. So I go, and it was a great goal and a great assist. So you've got to go Redmond for me.
Yeah. I think Stewart, Armstrong, James Ward-Prowse could also be big shouts for that. Auriel Romeo had a great game after coming on. There were so many 8, 9s and 10 out of 10 performances all over the pitch. I was just so delighted. We've got a couple of things coming up. I want to wish Saint Bannerman a happy 40th birthday. He's one of our listeners. Always gives us a shout out on Twitter. So many happy returns for you. Hope you enjoyed the game at Selhurst Park. Tom, up at the weekend, we have Tottenham Hotspur in the Cup.
Yeah, interesting one, isn't it? I mean, I guess we just want to keep winning. You know, like there's that thing, isn't there? Like, well, let's get out of the Cup, concentrate on the league. But we're not going to win the league. We're hopefully not going to go down. We might as well have a good run in the Cup. And Spurs have yet to score. If they've not scored tonight, they've yet to score in 2020.
Yeah, no, they have scored tonight. They're 2-1 up against Norwich City. And funny enough, in my notes, I had that Ali and Son were out of form at the moment. Guess who the 2 goals have come from?
Ali and Son?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. But I mean, so the thing is, Spurs are looking to put out a full-strength team on Saturday, aren't they?
You don't think so?
Against Middlesbrough. No, they will do.
They will do.
Put out a full-strength team against Middlesbrough, so they will put out a full-strength team against Saints. So if you're Mourinho, this is the only chance to salvage some glory this season. So I hope Saints reciprocate.
Yeah. Well, obviously we rested Danny Ings against Palace so that we could have go full tilt for them on Saturday. We've now won 4 away games in a row in the Premier League. Who's up next, Tom?
The Scousers, isn't it? Small matter of, that's 3 points in the bag, easy.
Liverpool at Anfield.
If anyone can beat them away, John.
Why not? Should I just read out Liverpool's form? No, let's not bother. Played 22, won 21, drawn 1. That's quite incredible form.
They might as well give them the league now.
Can we do it though, Tom? Is there a little glimmer of hope? Is there something that we could do here that no other team has managed to do this season?
Yeah, I think there is. If I don't know. Well, I don't know. I mean, they've got the best players. They've got the best defender in the world. They've probably got the best forward line in the world. But look, we can beat Chelsea away. We can beat Tottenham. We can beat Leicester away. We can give Liverpool a really good game, and we owe them. And they've got to lose sooner or later. Yeah. I know that doesn't mean anything, but surely they have to.
I mean, I'd quite like it if Southampton were that team. Google give us a 9% chance of winning the game.
So we'll have to play that game 11 times to win.
Yeah, and funny enough, the odds for Southampton winning are 11-1.
I should work for bookies, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think what I would say is that isn't it great that we can go into that game and not really have to worry about it as long as we don't lose 9-0.
Yeah. So, Tom, I'm just going to read out the league table position for you. Southampton, 9th position, 31 points, 24 games played. We've won 3 more games than Arsenal this season. And in fact, outside of the top 4, it's Southampton, Manchester and Tottenham Hotspur, if they both finish and win their games tonight, who will all be on 9 wins. So, I mean, that's pretty good company to be in, isn't it?
I know we've got the best away form outside the top 4.
Yeah.
62% of our points or something come away from home. I mean, look, there's so much to be positive about. And, we won't talk about it now because we will talk about it, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. But the games after Liverpool are actually quite tasty as well, aren't they? Burnley at home, West Ham away. these are games we can get results, John.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting. 3 more games to be safe to get to that 40 points. So after Liverpool, yeah, you're right. You've got Burnley at home. We've got Villa at home, West Ham away, Newcastle at home. I mean, we could have it all wrapped up in the next 5 games, Tom.
Yeah. I mean, I think Saints will be disappointed. They probably aren't expected to get anything at Liverpool, but you probably want out of those 4 other games, 9 points?
Yeah.
You'd probably say is not unrealistic. I mean, we should be beating the 3 games at home. We should be winning those. And West Ham are losing again tonight. West Ham are really in the doggy doo-doo. And we owe them a performance, don't we, John, at the bloody Olympic Stadium. We really owe them a performance. So,
absolutely. All right, Tom. Well, we said we'd keep it short tonight so that you can get back to
thank you
to your new little one.
Screaming Beatrice.
Yeah. Do send my love to your lovely wife and your lovely baby, Tom. It's been really great to have you back on the podcast. Listeners, if you do want to get in contact, it's saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com or at saintsfcpodcast on Twitter. It's bye-bye from me.
It's good night from me.
Cheerio, everyone.